order our Architectural Board of Review meeting for the April 3rd, 2023, and start with a roll call, please.
All right, I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Moore,
Here.
Board Member Anderson,
Here.
Board Member Black,
Here.
Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Whalen.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And go on to general business and public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
All right. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and seeing no one wishing to speak in the audience, I'll move to virtual public comment. And at this time, I don't see anyone joining via Zoom, and we did not receive any general written correspondence. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, I'll close public comment and go on to approval of the minutes for March 20th. We have those up. I wasn't present for this meeting, so somebody else could.
Yeah, I move that we accept the minutes.
Okay, we have a second.
A second.
Any discussion on that? No? Okay, let's take our vote, please.
All right. Chair Moore.
I'll abstain.
All right. Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
Board Member Whalen. All right.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And then the consent calendar for the 27th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had item A, 1187 Coast Village Road, and that was just concept review, so received comments on that. And then item B, 718 North Voluntario Street, vinyl windows and vinyl patio door, and that received project design and final approval. And those were the only two items. Thank you.
Okay, can we go back to item A? What was that and why was there so much?
So,
correspondence?
thank you. This was for a installation of two prefabricated structure patio systems outside of, I want to say, Cadario's, and I forget the other restaurant there. But the owner went around and had a bunch of comments and petitions from members, like I think restaurant people that were running through.
Got it.
And so they all submitted public comment in favor of the two
I see.
patio structures.
68.
All 68 of them, great.
Really?
Okay,
I'll move we accept.
all right, any discussion on this?
No.
Okay, let's take our vote, please.
All right. Chair Moore.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, any announcements, requests by applicants, et cetera?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to, Ellen Kokenda, Design Review Supervisor, I wanted to let you know that your project design approval decision for 425 Santa Barbara Street was appealed. So we will be coordinating with the city clerk on getting a date at council, and we will likely be asking one of the members who supported the project design approval to attend that hearing. So we will reach out to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
I got it.
Any subcommittee reports? Anything to report at this time? No? No, okay. Well, looks like we're spot on to be able to start. So we can start with item number 1, which is the advisory group public service and decorum training.
Yes, absolutely. We'd love to have you.
Used to having people way over.
The mayor could sit anywhere he wants.
Yes.
I'm going to advance to your side, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please,
That's the picture.
everybody come up.
And if we could switch.
Oh, that's nice.
Here, we'll go back. There.
Look at my
There
mug,
we
look
go.
at my mug close up, that's always comforting. Anyway, good afternoon, thanks you guys, appreciate this. Years ago, we used to do this with every advisory group. We would have a retreat. Actually, Jim Armstrong would grab Louise Lowry. We'd all go over there for a period of time because as agents of council, you don't work for us, but you are our agents. You are the extension of us, and it's important that we're all clear on what we expect, and we're clear on what you guys think you're supposed to be doing. And we try to put this out in little bulletins or training packets or agendas, so sometimes that's not quite everything we need to do. Particularly now, it's poignant because, land use decisions change about every 6 or 7 minutes out of Sacramento, and they see design review as an impediment as opposed to what we see it as an integral part of deliberative design and our community development. So it's important that we understand the challenges of that and how we conduct ourselves here and how our clients perceive what we do. And I would like to think that we are, in fact, dealing with clients that are applicants and people that we're working with. You guys are all professionals, and you understand what it's like to sit on this side of this. And it's really important that the people on this side of this feel like this is a collaborative partnership as opposed to abandon all hope ye who enter here, which is the reputation design review boards often get. I started real briefly with just a little word about decorum, because decorum is something I'm always harping on within our own body up at council. Anybody can turn on C-SPAN and see the absolute antithesis of what decorum should be, and it comes on down the food chain until us. So it's important that as we demand decorum within the chambers from everybody that's observing, that the decorum among the board is really important, so that even if a client or an applicant gets upset or his agent gets upset or whatever, you have the high ground. You are the folks in charge. And I think that's important to establish and maintain. I was telling Sarah earlier, I had a situation where I was doing something with one of my businesses, sat before this board, and it dissolved into a staff versus board shooting match. And I just walked out, and Don Olson, who was the guy at the time, actually walked down to my place of business to apologize to me. It was that kind of thing that stuck with me, is exactly how not to do something, because as we look at Congress, for example, and we watch them, their credibility sinks even further into the West as they go on, because they don't have any kind of sense of decorum. They're all busy trying to be the individuals. And once again, my comments today are not about this particular board or anybody here. They're just general kind of catch up, make sure we're all on the same page kind of things. The one thing I keep talking about with Eli Isaacson as we look towards doing reform within our own processes is certainty. And this is where it's really hard with design review boards, because you have a fair amount of subjectivity in what you do or say. But what we want to do is give that client the confidence that when they walk in here that we're of like minds, and even if you don't particularly personally like something, and I go through this all the time from the dais, trust me, that you can still vote for it because you know it's the right thing to do. And it's the right thing for that particular neighborhood, design element, or whatever you're talking about at that particular time. So those kind of things give the client and their agent the confidence they're doing something professional and they're doing something collaboratively, because I like it. It doesn't happen often, but people walk out of HLC or ABR going, that makes my project better. That's the way we'd love to see it 100% of the time. That's kind of Camelot, I realize, but it would be nice if that's the way we actually functioned. So what I'd like us to get is at a point where our public opinion of what we do as design review is to make a better community, that it's not just capricious, or we know what a certain individual doesn't like blue. We know that's one of those things that makes everybody crazy. And as we look at what goes on with ABR, and especially the challenges of today, where people are dropping Senate Bill 330 applications all over the place on us now to try to limit your bites at the apple. And so my ideal thing would be that our bites at the apple are going to be significant, they're going to be consistent, and they're going to be something that doesn't necessarily mean you're giving in on everything, but it means that you have a very describable and discernible set of standards that you can carry forward, so that we have that kind of credibility as an agency, as a building department, as everything. So this becomes a place where you come and you actually get assistance in making another part of the community that much better. And that's what I really believe our role is. I'm pretty sure that that's what you guys all believe too, because otherwise, why would you have signed up for this, for God's sakes? And like I said, if we were your employers, you're getting paid pretty poorly right now. So that's one thing I can say. So in any case, going forward, Sarah's got a little PowerPoint that kind of goes through some of those things, but I just wanted you all to know, number one, we very much appreciate this sense of volunteerism. Most of us did something like this at some point going up into where we are today. But it's a really big part of the community. It's a part that's frankly under attack right now from sources outside of our own city. And so part of my thing is to defend this, because I think we're a very deliberately planned community. I want to try to keep it that way. If I really wanted to live in Santa Monica, I'd have moved there years ago. So thank you for what you do, and I'm going to turn this over to Sarah. And I'll be around after we're done with this little section if you guys have any questions about what the hell were we thinking about. Sarah?
I might just have to end your presentation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's not, it's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's see if that works.
I'm gonna take the mayor's phone. I'll be practicing decorum by taking my boss's phone. So, hello. Lovely to be here. I am Sarah Gorman. I'm the City Clerk Services Manager. And I have seen some of you through the application and interview process. It's wonderful to be here. I am here with Graciela Reynoso, our Human Resources Manager. We'll be talking, as the mayor said, about a couple of different things. We'll be talking about conduct of boards, decorum, sticking to your purview. And I'd like you all to know that we are going around with this dog and pony show to lots of boards. And you're the second one, so you're seeing a slightly more improved version. And by the time we get to the end, it's going to be glorious, but you'll get a decent version. And we're talking about the kind of the same topics at a bunch of boards, but they particularly apply to the design review boards for the purposes of for the reasons that the mayor talked about, particularly because the state is coming in with all of these new regulations, and we want to make sure that our design review process is being executed in a fair and appropriate manner, so that we can defend it. So we'll talk about a couple things here in our training. We'll talk about the role of the boards, commissions, and advisory groups. We'll talk about communication, conduct, and decorum, being decent people and being facilitators when you're here at the dais. Graciela will talk about anti-harassment training, and we have about a half hour booked, much of it with us talking, but time for questions at the end. There's your picture, Mr. Rouse, but we can move forward. You can just always think of him looking over you benevolently when you're making your decisions. He sits literally just above me every Tuesday in chambers, wondering if I'm paying close attention, and then someone throws out a motion, and I'm like, I am paying attention. I'll write it back down. So the boards and commissions are vital to public entities, and particularly vital to Santa Barbara. I worked for previous cities, including, God forbid, Santa Monica before I came here. And one of the cities I worked for, Santa Clarita, when I started, had 4 boards and commissions. So it was kind of a hassle. And then I got here and I said, what? 40 plus? That's crazy. But a good structure. And it does give us the city that we have today. But in order to make that hydro work, each board has to perform the work that you're assigned to do. So the council delegates advisory and decision-making authority to the various boards and commissions, and each commission has a defined role and provides guidance within that role. In the category of the world's most exciting handout, you'll see that you have an excerpt from the city charter in front of you with the powers and duties of the ABR. I'll be quizzing you on it later. No, I won't be quizzing you. But you can put that up on your fridge when you're feeling like you're not getting enough respect at home. You're like, look at what I do, people. And then your family will ignore you and refuse to take a bath and go to bed. That's my life. So you guys, as board members, are representatives of the city. When you sit behind this dais, you hopefully are taken seriously. It can be pretty intimidating to be on the other side of the dais, be it here where the applicants or public commenters sitting before the board are sitting here, or sometimes in different boards, people are up on the actual dais and in council chambers. But for people that do not present at these boards frequently, it is intimidating. And they are coming to you, as the mayor said, as clients. And you are speaking to them as representatives of the city. You're professionals in a small town with a limited number of professionals. A lot of these architects and other design professionals that come before you here, I'm sure are people you've been working with or for years and years. But in this position, we want you to be acting with the authority and to kindness and decency that that sitting here gives you. And then once you're off the board, if you want to be uncool, I suppose you can, but I would urge you not to be. Goal of this system of having so many boards and commissions is to increase participation from various community interests. We bring people in from different facets of life to these different advisory groups for different perspectives. We want to engage the community and for each of you to provide that advice and expertise in your assigned area. And it is extremely important to remain within the purview and authority of your particular commission. We have, I know I'll keep hammering it, but it's so crazy how many boards we have, but everybody has a different purview, and particularly within the structure of our design review process and the appeal process. It's critical that each decision be made within the rules that are in front of you and within your particular purview so that it can be upheld. Council wants to uphold your decisions, and if it's within the purview, that's a lot easier to do, and it's a lot more legally defensible if a case goes further than that. Expectation is to conduct the city's business in a professional and decorous manner. You all are decent people, I assume. Eye contact? Yes, good. You're serving your, see, look at you. No one took too long to make eye contact. And continue to do that when you're here. We want you to be leaders of civility and decorum. And I apologize, Ellen and the folks behind me who have heard these jokes before, and you will continue to hear them at these. But here we go. But I have a 12-year-old daughter at home, and I did not think that I rolled my eyes. I had not rolled my eyes in a solid 30 years. And then my daughter hit her tweens, and she started rolling her eyes, and I started rolling my eyes at work. It was horrible. I didn't do it at council, but I have almost done it in staff meetings, and I stopped. So no eye rolling. Do not act as if you certainly are a tween, or even if you have a tween in the house that you live in your head, which is full of being decent and respectful at all times. You want to be welcoming of civil participation and engagement. In council, we get a lot of public comment from people that don't necessarily speak very often. And they come because they care fervently about a particular issue. They may not have the usual language that we are expecting to communicate an issue, but we listen and we want to hear what they have to say, and that's here too. A lot of times, the professionals that will come before you are used to coming before you or coming to similar boards, but I bet some of the public commenters aren't, some of the neighbors aren't. And you want to be as welcoming as possible to those who come with disparate viewpoints and different experience levels. And just be prepared. Prepare in advance, stick to the agenda, read the agenda ahead of time. We put so much effort into the agenda. I'm sure you guys put so much effort into the agenda. My daughter also, when being snarky, refers to Agenda Mom, who is one of the meaner moms that there's cool stuff on the Weekend Mom, and then when I'm publishing the agenda, because the agenda has to be perfect, I am pretty strict and mean on that days on all those topics, and that's true here. The staff works really hard to make sure the agenda meets the Brown Act and covers what needs to be covered. So make sure that you're sticking to it. Be respectful of other people's time up here on the dais, and that can go a couple of ways. That can mean make sure that you are giving space for other people to talk. If you find yourself talking a lot and you think other people are getting shut out, make sure you're giving space for other people to talk. And make sure that you speak up and speak if you think it's necessary. You're appointed for a reason, and we want to hear your voice. And don't be distracted. It makes me worried not to be able to touch my phone at every moment. But don't touch your phone. Be present. Be here. And I believe this is you, Ms. Reynoso.
Thank you.
I roll my eyes inside my head all the time, by the way, just to come to dice.
See, it's all about knots.
She started going that you're on the camera.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Graciela Reynoso. I'm the Human Resources Manager for the City of Santa Barbara. And I'm here to talk a little bit about organizational culture and different policies and documents that we have to encourage a respectful work environment. As the mayor and Sarah have mentioned, you are an extension and representative of the city. So there are a few documents that the city has that affirm and are words of affirmation for the city's commitment to professional conduct. And one of the documents is the Excellence in Customer Service Code of Conduct, which you received in your orientation packet. You also know about our organizational values, I'm sure. And words like being attentive and responsive and courteous and respectful are those affirming words of the culture that we are trying to create and maintain across the organization. As you know, HR is usually involved in creating that culture because it has a close linkage, and we'll talk to kind of some anti-harassment practices that are very prevalent within our industry. So the Code of Conduct, some reminders: address the public and staff in a respectful and patient manner, treat others as you'd like to be treated, so the golden rule. Practice active and respectful listening. Being an active listener will get you a lot in a conversation. Monitor your tone of voice and body language. As we train our staff and different members of the community, a number that comes up frequently is that 80% of communication, 80 or 90% sometimes, is nonverbal. So our tone of voice, our body language, that sort of way that we present carries a lot of weight for people. Make a genuine effort to listen to divergent viewpoints, and it's okay to disagree without being disagreeable. So it's kind of some of the things I'm sure we've already talked about today, but some tenets to kind of heed to in public discourse. And more particularly to the City of Santa Barbara, we do have a non-discrimination and harassment policy, and we have a resolution, and both these documents really affirm and position the city as being very invested in making sure that folks are treated fairly and not treated in a way that is different or discriminatory based on what are called protected classifications or protected classes. Those are things such as ethnicity or age or gender identity, and a lot of different other aspects that are protected by state and federal law and city policy. So these documents assure that, for example, if we're on notice that one of our employees is being mistreated by a member of the public or another employee, we're bound by law to take action to protect our employee. So I wanted to express that these documents also are mentioned that they also cover vendors and they also cover board and commission members. And again, the city has an obligation to act on discriminatory behavior, which is considered illegal when it's based on a protected category. So, the other item that I'd like to talk about, because it's become very big across organizations, and it's an HR kind of a trending item, if you want to call it that. The fact that abusive conduct happens, and it does have an effect on employees and individuals. And we thought to offer some examples of what abusive conduct is. In other terms, it could be called bullying. So it's behavior such as yelling or belittling, condescending voice tone, or dismissiveness, when somebody is dismissed before they really had an opportunity to give their viewpoint, or when somebody's dismissed based on a protected category, that's when it starts to become kind of this illegal behavior. So obviously, HR is going to say, please don't engage in abusive or discriminatory conduct. And this is just really kind of some broad brushstrokes of training that we offer our employees on a regular basis. So this is Sarah again.
The all-powerful chair. And so I can have this conversation 3 feet from your eyes. And this applies to all chairs. But the chair sets the welcoming tone to the public and to the board. You're responsible for the order of and conducting the meeting in a fair and efficient manner. The one thing I really want to flag here is the concept of being able to call a recess if things feel like they're getting out of control. We do this sometimes at council, and it's something to just kind of keep in your back pocket. Don't call a recess if one of your other board members is making a point that you don't agree with, and don't just grab a gavel from somewhere and say, never mind, we'll come back in 10. But if there's rabble-rousing in the audience, if it feels like the meeting isn't being able to be run in a decorous manner, emotions are getting really, really hot, it is completely legitimate to say, okay, let's take 10 minutes. It's 4:15. Let's come back at 4:25. And sometimes just simply taking that time to let everybody breathe can be really helpful. And that's particularly a concern if you have a lot of agitated public comment. It can bring people down a little bit, and they come back and take a breath, and things move on. So it's just something to keep in mind. So generally, when things get heated, you can think of this lovely and peaceful sunset. And as the board members, we want to make sure that you're conducting yourself as a representative of the city, being courteous and welcoming of others' opinion. And truly thank you for your service. This is a tremendous amount of time and effort that you put in, and we truly, truly appreciate it. And 3 of us are available for questions.
Okay. Thank you. Does any board members have questions? No?
We may
Are you
need
gonna
to
roll
open
your
this. I
eyes?
don't know if we have to open this up to public comment per this item. So, speaking of decorum and process.
Yes.
Fair enough, Ms. Kokinda.
Excellent. We will open public comment. If there's any member of the public that would like to address the board regarding this presentation.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. And seeing no one in the audience wishing to speak, I'll move to virtual public comment. I don't have any hands raised right now, so we'll go ahead and close virtual public comment. And I also did not receive any written correspondence. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment. And I'll ask again, does any board member have a question or a comment regarding the presentation?
And Mr. Chair, if I may say some staff comments, I just want to point out how much I appreciate the ABR. This board does a really excellent job of respecting applicants, kind of walking through, kind of going through all the things that's appreciated. I just want to let you know, staff are here to support you because I know that it happens sometimes at ABR, a lot more at some of our other design review boards where we have members of the public come in who have never been to that public meeting. They don't really understand. Even 2 weeks ago, we had a situation where someone just kept going on in the audience and didn't realize the public comment was closed. So I think, it's up to you, but also staff are here to support, and I will intervene at any moment to kind of help people understand what the procedures are, what decorum is, and sometimes it's always helpful when you describe what your purview is to members of the public, but again, if you need to tee up staff to help us answer that question, when people bring every issue in the book and, your focus is one thing, if it helps, I think it helps to reiterate that, and if you want staff to do that, we're always here to jump in and state those, what is not in your purview today, in order to help members of the public as well. So just wanted to comment on that and share. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we can move on to item number 2, which is Levin Anacapa. This is a proposal for alterations and additions to an existing multi-tenant commercial building and parking area. The project involves converting 1,643 square feet of warehouse floor area to a wine tasting business. 1,962 square foot, 45-seat roof deck, second-story storage area and bar. Second-story roof access will be provided with a new exterior stair and elevator. Per AB 2097, providing a parking exemption for this project because of the proximity to public transportation. Project has been revised by eliminating the proposed parking stacker, but voluntarily retains 32 surface parking spaces in the approved valet parking operations plan. The Planning Commission approved a coastal development permit and a parking modification to allow the 45 spaces rather than the required 68. Final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the plans granted project design approval on March 7th. Staff has determined that the change to parking is consistent with the Planning Commission's approvals and may be found in compliance with the project design approval. Okay. Welcome back. Do we have a motion or anything from that last design?
Pulling up the March 7th minutes now.
Great. While we're doing that, does staff have anything they want to add before we jump in?
Thank you, Chair Moore. Hello, board members. I'm Tony Bauman. I'm the planner assigned to this project. I'm really just here to answer questions if you have any. This AB 97 is an example of one of those state-level laws that Mayor Rouse mentioned. So this project no longer has to provide parking, but they are providing most of it that they were proposing, just eliminating the parking stacker because it was a huge expense for the project to include that. And as Will's bringing up the minutes, there were some comments about murals. Former board member Olson was particularly interested in the city's process to approve murals on a project, but those were going to be on the parking stacker. That's been eliminated, so the murals will be eliminated along with that. And I'm just here for any questions that might arise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, if we could read through those minutes and refresh our memory. Okay, so specifics, obviously there's going to be some changes to your plan based on the removal of the stacker, so That's good. So we're looking for a lighting plan. A refined cap at the elevator tower or a modification to the tower itself to reduce its mass. And then we made the compatibility findings. So if we could start with introducing yourselves and then take us through those, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Ryan Mills with DMHA.
Michael Stroh with DMHA.
Courtney Miller with CJMLA Landscape Architects.
Thank you. For the record, Chair Moore, you've always made us feel comfortable and welcome.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Can I get you guys anything?
I truly mean it.
Water?
Truly.
Hey, you're wasting my time.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon. We haven't seen you guys on this project in a year, but luckily, all of you guys were here the last time, and we were awarded project design approval. And so what's happened in the last year, obviously, is we've developed our construction documents fully, and that's what we're here today to show you guys for potentially final approval. And then we've had a significant change in the state law related to the parking stacker, which is kind of what sort of led to the delay in us not being here. But as Tony Bauman said, AB 2097 eliminated the need for the parking stacker. So what we've actually done is we've gone back to the existing valet spaces, which were already completed under the previous permit for beer garden, and so the parking lot will operate the same way as it always has for the last couple of years since it's been opened. So we don't have any proposed changes to that at this time. So primarily what we did is we focused on the building and then as well as our entry feature, which is the large exposed stair and patio area that ties into the beer garden's exit ramp out to Helena. And so, Ryan, if you could zoom if you could go to A103, which is page 28. Oh, geez, okay. So if you go up there, you can click in there and type 28. Okay.
So the box to the left of it, if you, to the right,
Or
click that. Click the number. Click enlarge.
where it says, yeah.
Okay.
28. All right. So 20.
Number's a little different.
Oh, it's different. 27. So our plan has not changed other than as we've developed the stair, we had to introduce a few new columns and some other things. The stair feature does still look like it essentially is an add-on to the building. It's sort of that kind of funky rounded shape with the rounded corners and things. And we've kept that, and we'll show you guys what we've done detail-wise for that. And then if you go up to if you go to page 30, or second floor plan. So we still have our same roof deck. We've just sort of manipulated the shapes a little bit as far as how we get the stair up there and how the railings go. We do have a perimeter planter around that roof deck. And one of the key things on this, so you can see, and so we still have the bar with the exposed bar that has the cantilevered roof on it, and we'll show you that. And so if you go to the next sheet. So on the roof plan, so one of the critical items, we actually looked at the elevator tower a lot, but as we developed the full construction documents, we took the massing of it. The parapet stayed the same in terms of the height, and the size stayed the same in terms of sort of the plan dimensions. But we actually depressed portions of it behind the parapet so that we could fit all of our mechanical units. We actually went with a VRF system, which is 6 feet tall, so we actually were able to hide all of that without making the elevator tower any taller. But to that end, it made it very difficult to reduce that massing. But what we did is, if you can go to page 35. Oh, it is different. Okay, go one back. Yeah, okay. Is it still that one? This elevation, okay. So what we did is we actually added a 2x8 nailer around the outside, which will be plaster covered, which will mimic what we already had done on the beer garden next door, and this sort of cap areas around on the existing building on Helena Street. So we felt that it was a really simple way to just sort of cap that and allow that mass to just, instead of just being sort of infinite up into the sky, just give it a nice little cap. So we developed all of our lighting and materials palette for this. It's pretty similar. We have a 2-color stucco system. The elevator tower is a darker color. I don't remember what it's called. And then the lighter color is the Hacienda, which will be, and I'll show you on the materials palette here in a second. And then all of our storefronts are black. All of our exposed steel is either bonderized or black, and it varies depending on depending on the condition. And then our railings are bonderized, but they have a mesh that actually goes between all the railings, and it's painted a kind of a bluish sea foam kind of color, which was in our original documents, in our original concept. That's what we were looking for. Is that it's sort of nice, just sort of wash of kind of an interesting color. If you could go to page 47. I know it's not going to be exact, but we'll go back one sheet. So this will give you a little bit better idea of sort of how the stair goes together. We are using round pipe rail, and we're using concrete within the steel. We actually did manage to make it work with 8-inch channels instead of 10-inch, which is kind of interesting. It thins that structure up a little bit, and just really by having it come out of the building and have centralized columns and not outboard columns, it really feels like it kind of flies off and was an addition onto the edge of the building, which is kind of interesting in terms of the vernacular of the neighborhood. And so if you could go, I want to run through our details as well before and then our materials palette before I introduce Courtney. So go to page 57. And we do have a full set of construction documents. We're more than happy to review any details with you. So this is just our wall sheet. If you could go to the next sheet. Next one down. So we do have some interesting details at the bar. We have a storefront system, or actually a steel window system that surrounds the columns that actually carry the structure of the roof above, and then we have a glass block system that flanks the back of the bar. Again, we've just created these really sort of simplistic steel details to kind of tie it in with the stair element, and then they're all kind of tied together with their materiality there. This is bonderized steel. Go to the next sheet, if you would. So here's our stair details. Again, pipe rail with the infill mesh set behind. Pretty clean. Pretty simplistic, nothing magical, and then a concrete fill with steel channels on the outboard side, and then we do radius the corners, which is nice. I'll go one more sheet. If you go to detail 5 there, or detail 7, you can see we actually have. You can slide over there. We actually have, so you can see how the roof deck works. Basically, we have a big span through the center where there's no columns to the floor below, and then we have a pedestal system. And so we've then pushed the railing back and put a planter system out towards that edge, which is just sort of flank that entire roof deck, and just give it a really nice landscape band around the outer edge. And now go to page 62, which is me there. All right. Nope, one up. There you go. Okay. So this is oh, what happened here? Oh, this is our palette for the bar. We have, again, the wire mesh on the stairs. We have this sort of open structure to the bar, which is simple posts. We've eliminated a bunch of the posts. We've got a cedar bar top. clay tiles that are a blue color, and then we use the Vista brick on the back with the glass block. Our storefront system's just a black Kynar finish. We have concrete insets with perforated metal risers. You can see our 1/2-inch by 1/2-inch wire mesh painted it's called Bora Blue or something like that. And our bonderized metal finish for most of the steel. Some of the other pieces, the aluminum pieces, will be painted black. It'll be a matte black finish. And then if you go down, there's our Bora Shore, actually. We have our tile system for the lower level, which is a long, linear, staggered pattern. And then keep going down. The underside of the bar roof is a T&G Dolly Varden cedar. We have our 2 stucco colors, which is the Belglade, which is the darker elevator tower, and then the Hacienda, which is the lighter portion along Helena and around the corner behind the stair. And then if you go over that way, there's our pedestal tile system, and these are our exterior light fixtures, all of which are just real simplistic, downcast, and they show up on our elevations as well as on our electrical plans. And then we've got some recessed wall lights into the ramp wall that comes down, and we have a couple of little wall packs that sit above our service doors. And then we have that LED pendant which sits at the bar. I think we've got 4 of them over the bar. And with that, I want to turn it over to Courtney. I left you 4 minutes, that's what I got.
Great. Probably don't need that much time. So I think since the last time we were here, we didn't change much. There was a comment that didn't make it into the minutes regarding some discussion we had regarding whether a vine is planted to grow up the tower, and we're not planning to do that, so the tower will remain as it is. And then otherwise, yeah, it's just the change to the parking stacker being removed, which didn't change much for us at all. In terms of the planting, it's very simple and in keeping with what's been installed at the beer garden property. And on the roof, the planters, we've simplified the specs. We have both freestanding and it's a couple more sheets down, Ryan. We have both freestanding and the built-in planter that Mike mentioned. And for the freestanding, we have, they're actually aluminum, but the color that we're speccing is like a dark bronzy kind of tone. And those are the small, if you zoom in on the plan, Ryan, I can kind of point those out. Those are smaller rectangular planters that are kind of inset from where that blue hatch is. So the blue hatch represents the perimeter planter, and that, again, is built in. The intent with that is that the finish matches as close as we can get to the bonderized metal, kind of like a dark gray. And the planting there, we're planning on using green roof panels, which hence the blue mesh, and it'll be Cape Rush, the smaller version of the Cape Rush, throughout the whole thing. And then otherwise, I don't believe we've changed much. So look forward to your questions.
Anything else?
We turn it back over to the board.
Okay, thank you. We'll open public comments.
All right. Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. Just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak, please fill out a speaker slip by the back door. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I don't see anyone in the audience wishing to speak, so I'll move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak via Zoom, please raise your hand, and I'll call on you. At this time, there's not any hands raised, and we haven't received any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we'll close public comment, go to questions from the board. Any questions down here? Mr. Whalen, Mr. Newton?
None.
Mr. Black?
I have a question. Courtney, I wanted to ask you about the planting that would be immediately adjacent to where the car stacker was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that area was what planted as part of the beer garden plans, is that correct?
Correct.
Because there are new plantings there relatively.
Yes.
Is that
We,
right?
we did plant the
Yeah.
area under those eucalyptus as part of the beer garden property, so that's what's indicated there.
So will that be part of this iteration, design-wise, or is it?
No,
just
I think it's
existing
existing to remain.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question, just, I sort of looked at that planting and I had a concern about, the relative amount of, or lack of screening.
May you scoot the mic a little closer? Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Like, it just seemed a little bit thin through there. The aloes are kind of small. I think the Cape Rush does a nice job of doing that. Maybe it's just a matter of maybe needing a few more of those in there. Just, I don't know, I just noticed that because I'm down there all the time. So
Sure.
and as you head north up Anacapa and you look across to the parking, I just it didn't seem like it provided the kind of screening that you probably would desire. But it's just something to look at this point. But that's my question. The big question was, I just wanted to know whether what was there was going to be modified as part of this project, or is that to be considered something separate and done already?
It is existing to remain, but for some reason, we do have planting plans for that area.
Yeah.
But it looks identical to what we already put in, so I apologize, I don't have an exact answer for that, but I will
Well,
make sure that we address that.
thank you.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
Question?
Just a couple questions regarding lighting. Can you just point out on the rooftop where exactly the light fixtures are located?
So go to E6.0, so it's about, let's see, I took it off. I think it's page 100.
That's the bar.
Yeah. So we have pendants hanging down over the bar work area and the sort of transit area into the stairs, and then we have a couple of fixtures outboard that are recessed into the roof. And then if you go one roof deck lighting plan, I don't think we have any. I don't think we have any additional lighting proposed up there.
On the deck?
On the deck itself.
Okay, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
And these recessed cans, it said something about a sensor. Is that a motion sensor or is that something else?
They're likely on I'd have to look specifically, but they're likely on an emergency sensor, so that in the event that obviously if the power goes out.
Got it.
And a lot of times, the other way that ends up getting set up is at closing time. They just
Makes sense,
click
yeah.
and all the lights go on, get out. So
And then on the stairs, you're doing step lights in the wall? I couldn't quite understand the plans.
we have step lights down, so go back a couple sheets. Go to E4, so go back about 2 or 3 sheets. Keep going the other way. Nope, one more. There you go. Okay. So there's some ground-mounted lighting. There's wall-mounted lighting on the storefront itself, and then on the stair itself there is the SH9 tip, which is the SH9 fixture, which is go over to the legend. It matches ours actually. Go down. It doesn't have the legend on here. Go back to 62. 61. That's close. Okay. The SH fixture is. Sorry, no, it's up there. No, we don't have it actually.
Is that on
I don't have
the
the
rail?
cut sheet. It's on the rail. Oh, that's the puck in the lighting. It's the puck in the handrail.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
It's
It's
under the
it's
handrail.
what's missing from our cut sheet.
Okay, I was just trying to
Yeah.
understand
No,
that.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, no. The intention was, and I apologize, the intention was to light the railing. That's
Cool, okay.
something we're doing with a lot of our stairs
Yeah.
recently, so.
Cool. And then the glass block is just the backsplash. It's not seen really from the exterior?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically just the back. It's the back bar, and then there's actually a for lack of a better term, a little enclosure behind it. So
Okay.
they can put art, and they can put all kinds of other funky lighting
interesting.
or whatever
Okay.
else they put in there. But it's not seen from anywhere.
Okay. And then the roof did change just a little with a pitch or a slight pitch. And the flat, or the, not flashing. I'm blanking.
Fascia.
Fascia, thank you. What is that finish?
So
on that?
we actually have a detail of it. Go to page 60 or so. It's a layered kind of Z flashing, and there's like 3 or 4 layers to it. Let's see if I can find the detail here. Go back one sheet or up one sheet. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, I see.
Any of the 3 on the right-hand side.
Same color as the
It's bonderized.
frames? Oh, bonderized metal. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a flat
Steel.
plate, and then there's 2 little Z pieces, and then there's a little steel angle over the top.
All right, cool. And then just, I know we're not allowed to talk about the sign, but is that the size that you guys are proposing to the sign committee?
It'll be up to the tenant
Okay.
in finality, but that's the location, at least.
Yeah.
Lauren, we only showed that size because it mimicked, there's one on the Surf Museum side, that
Okay.
facade that approximated.
Same size. Okay.
Similar, so we just sort of threw that as an example of what could be
Cool.
there.
Those are my questions.
Okay. Just want to make sure we walk through all of the window details and the typical, so any sort of outside corners, the head, and the details and things like that. So if we could just look at the plan really quickly and then just jump back and forth.
Yeah, so go to 28 or 29, whichever one it is, 27. So we don't have that many windows. We have, Ryan, if you zoom in, we have the storefront that's up at the entry, which is framed in with, so we have the storefront that's framed in between wide flange columns and wide flange beams, and I'll show you that detail here in a second. And then if you go to 2 sheets down, 105, there we go. Beyond that, we actually have, go down. We have the glass block that goes in there, and then what happens is around the bar, you can actually see it on our parapet on the bottom of the screen. There's some tube steel and some posts, and that's our glass wall that frames in the south end of the bar, and then it wraps around above the bar, but only goes down two modules. The elevations would be the best thing to go to. So go to 34. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. Okay. So actually, it goes down 1 module. So the one on the right-hand side is actually, it's outboard of the columns. And then it basically forms a corner on the outside of the tube steel post, or the steel pipe post. And then we have glass that wraps around the fascia, and then it dies back into the elevator. So now if you go back to 59-ish. No, not that one. Go back to 57. Yeah, here we go. So you can see, so let's just start at the lower right-hand corner, Ryan, and go up and around from there. Oh, you're on the wrong sheet now.
What sheet was it?
This one.
That was that one.
This one.
Just go slowly up. There we go.
All right. So we have these wide flange columns, and then basically everything's framed out with these tiny little pieces of tube steel, and then the storefront is attached to that. And so that wraps around, and then we have it at the head condition as well, and the transom above. So keep going. And then where it dies into the wall, the steel forms a barrier and forms a frame essentially around this storefront. And then we have a couple of locations where, where it's kind of by itself here, or just a typical storefront, to the slab. Zoom out a little bit. then over on the upper floor, go to the bottom left-hand corner. That's probably the best place to see it. Yeah. So we have a parapet wall that sits, 36 inches above the floor. And then what happens is there's a flat piece of flat plate steel. And then we have our little tube steel glass enclosure that goes all the way up. And the glass block actually matches that with plate steel between it, forming little boxes, essentially.
Which is the exterior side?
The exterior side is the left-hand side.
So the flush side?
Yes. So if you go, actually, you can see it on detail number 14 there. So the interior of the bar is where the steel pipe is, and then we have the outside tube steel glass framing, and then with just a little L angle at the corner to capture that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
and
you-
then just have the rest of the details.
Yeah, you
Glass
touched on the fascia detail, and that's consistent around the entire pitched roof of the...
Yes, we pitched it one direction. We originally had it flat and was going to be pitched two directions, and running a gutter all the way around there proved to be extremely problematic with downspouts. And so we ended up just giving it a slight pitch, which you won't really notice from anywhere because of the building's configuration. And it all pitches to the back now with a concealed gutter.
Okay. And then some follow-up questions on the lighting. If we go to you have a 3D view sheet.
It's right after this one.
There it is.
Yeah. These are, just to be clear, we did not update the renderings. These are relatively old from conceptual level.
So the question is, what sort of recessed lighting, I mean, I understand the recessed lighting in your canopy over the bar area. Is there any recessed lighting under the stair or anything like that that's going to be downlight?
No,
kind of related?
only in the handrails themselves.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. We didn't actually have the meat in order to fit the housing for the lights. So, and you would have seen conduit spanning between the building and the.
Chair Moore, for that lower level, kind of the approach of this on the corner, so we're relying on the wall sconces placed across that storefront.
Okay. I only bring it up because there's been a project or two lately that are like roof deck kind of stuff, and the result is that there's a ton of recessed lighting that's down, and of course it's down lighting up there, but it's also washing out and very visible from like the street and things like that. So it kind of becomes kind of a glare bomb up in the middle of the sky. So those are my questions. Any follow-up questions? Okay, so they are here for final approval. So if we believe they're ready, somebody can craft a motion to that effect. If we believe they're ready.
Well, sure, even though you didn't ask for comments, my comment was going to be, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please, then.
Let's see, so you would need, I will make a motion that the project at 11 Anacapa be approved as proposed. Do you need, Mr. Russell, do you need compatibility findings read with that?
You just need to mention that they, it complies with the project design approval set of
And
plans.
it does comply with project design approval guidelines.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Anyone feel any differently or have anything to add? Okay, then let's
All right.
take a vote.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Nice project.
Thanks for not being intimidating, Kev.
About the state law change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
That's helpful.
That was what was holding up the whole thing that came about.
All right, so we can move on to item number 3, if we're ready. All right, this is 1315 Hutash Street. It's a proposal for 1,205 square foot second floor addition to front residential unit and remodel of the first floor. Proposal includes demolition of an as-built roof deck extension to the rear residential unit. Project designer approval is requested and requires compliance with project compatibility guidelines. It was last year, January 30th of this year.
I just did an elevation change. Yeah. That's fine, we'll just show that. We'll just keep that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Using the camera too, so.
Oh, I guess we need to mention an appeal process? Or is
Yeah,
it- we
so
already
there
did-
was a 10-day appeal period. We forgot to announce it for item 2, but what is up on screen is how one may file an appeal.
Okay. Hi there. Okay, if we could have our motion from the last time around on this one.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Let me find those minutes. So here we are.
Okay, applicant shall study the roof form on the new second story to a gable form. Remove the brow roof overhang in the back of the residence. Study the location of windows, how they respond to the existing residence. Study the carport. Mass bulk and scale is acceptable. Reduce second story plate height if possible. Changing side lights to horizontal sliding, considering the neighboring properties. To provide a more definitive trash and recycling plan. Okay. Welcome back. If you could introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name's Jose with Design Studio 34.
Great.
Good afternoon.
If you could take us through your response to that motion.
Yeah. So first of all, we appreciate your guys' comments. I think that they were great comments, and I think it bettered the design and the overall project. So I'm just going to go through them line by line.
Would you mind turning on the mic and then just bring it a little closer for you too, just so people on TV can hear? Thanks.
Is that better?
Yeah, just
Can you hear me?
yeah, just a little closer. Thank you.
Okay. So first item was to study the roof form of the second story from hip to gable, which we did. So I will just go down to that sheet. So we did study the change, and we did like it. We think that it's better suitable for the neighborhood. So we did provide that change. There was a comment to remove the brow roof overhang. So not sure if you remember, but we did have a kind of overhang that ran across from the side and all along the rear of the project. So we did remove that as well. And we ended up just putting this band kind of around to separate the stucco from the siding of the structure to break up that verticality. The third comment was to study the locations of the windows on the second story. So we proposed on the second story a window right here in the bathroom that seemed to directly overlook the second residence to the back. What we ended up doing, the client really wanted a window at the shower just for natural ventilation. So what we did is we just shortened the window so that it's not visible from the inside of the bathroom to the rear residence, and then vice versa. So you're not able to see inside of the shower from the rear residence as well. And that seemed to have solved the problem.
So you made it taller.
We just made it taller, yeah. Comment number 4. So I'm going to come back to comment number 4 as the last item. Number 5, that was just a comment that the board generally finds the mass bulk and scale acceptable. Number 6, reducing the second story plate height to minimum if possible. So we couldn't reduce it anymore. It's already at 8 feet, which is kind of the minimum we would like to go. So we weren't able to reduce that height. Number 7 is study changing the siding from horizontal or from vertical to horizontal. So we did study that, and again, we did like that change, so we ended up implementing it into the design. The trash and recycle, we did relocate that to the rear of the property. So we originally had it along the side right here, and we ended up putting it to the rear back here. And then coming back to the carport. So as you can see, that carport is pretty funky. We originally decided to just remove it completely, but then kind of learned last minute that we do have to have a covered carport. So what we're thinking is these drawings show it removed, but we just wanted to modify it and kind of simplify it. So I did. Is it okay if I share a printed set? We just didn't have enough time to upload it. Sure. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, that's fine to share. Just make sure we put it underneath the camera, and then if we could have City TV zoom in on that.
So there's 2 elevations that show the carport. One is the front elevation right here, and then the side elevation down over here. So we try to kind of just simplify it, make it look more like a pergola-style carport so that it wouldn't bring too much attention to it, because it's already kind of funky and odd what's existing right now. And we didn't want it to, bring too much attention to the design. So that's what we're proposing for the covered carport that's required.
Okay.
And those are all of my.
That's it? Okay. Let's open public comment. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Moore and board members. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I don't see anyone wishing to speak in the audience, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. Just as a reminder, if you wish to speak via Zoom, please raise your hand and then I'll call on you. At this time, I don't see any hands raised, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go to questions from the board. Ms. Anderson?
Sure, I just have a couple. Can you just remind me, are you doing anything to the front walls, the landscape walls and gates, or are we leaving those the same?
We, so we were, the owner really didn't want to replace the walls. They were not meeting the visibility requirement. So what we ended up doing was just modifying the existing stone wall and just bringing it down so that we could just add a gate, iron fence to match the driveway gates.
Okay, and then is your plan to paint the new carport or stain it, or what material are you looking at?
We're thinking of just painting it white.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay. Questions down here? Mr. Whalen?
Sure, I'll pick up on the carport. How is it solid at the roof? I mean, you called it a trellis, but it's really enclosed on the roof. Is that with a roofing system?
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to match the shingles just to waterproof it so that it's protected from the environment.
I see.
But we wanted just like a kind of more airy feel to it as opposed to a.
Let's see, I had some other questions too. I'm sure you didn't mean it, it's a drawing error, but the recycle shows on the second floor plan, that's not defying space and gravity, is it? No.
It's a new system.
Just a drawing error.
Yeah, that's correct.
It also appears, Mr. Sanchez, that a whole new front porch is proposed, the old one being torn off and a new one.
That is correct. My apologies, I forgot to mention that. So part of the project as well was to modify the front porch to add a little bit more kind of outdoor space out here. And also, we felt like when we studied that front elevation, it looked a little bit better than just having that little small kind of existing porch.
So to that end, I can't quite tell when I look at the east elevation, but is it an open exposed truss, or are the triangles filled in? Is it solid up there?
It is an open truss.
It's an open truss, thank you. Let's see. And then one last very vague question. On that same east elevation, if you could zoom in, there is a heavy vertical line in the second floor attic.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
That's just,
That, yes.
yeah.
What's going
That
on?
shouldn't
Is
be
there
there.
a
That-
change of plane?
No,
or it's just
that's
a-
all in line. That was just, I don't
Just
know.
a
I think
drawing
when
error.
when we printed, it was just printed in error.
Okay.
We'll have to look at that.
And then you are proposing a sort of a tab asphalt shingle roof?
Yeah, correct.
But the existing roof, but the roof on the existing two-story building is not going to change?
At the moment, that is correct, yeah.
It's not part of the project, so it
Correct, yeah.
stays tile. All right, those are my only questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. New? Mr. Black, any questions?
Just a minor thing. Are you having to make any modifications to the landscape around the areas that are being modified? Like the
We-
front porch area or the front yard area?
That's the only place that's going to be modified, yeah, is just the extension of the porch.
So you're not having to modify the landscape to the extent that you would show it on a plan?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. That's all. One question I have.
Okay. Could you zoom in on the porch elevation? And I appreciate enlarging the porch. I think that's nice for the neighborhood and nice for the residents. I think that's a win all the way around. What size are those columns, do you think?
So we beefed them up a little bit. Right now, they have I think, existing 4x4s, and we're using, I believe, 6x6s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Any other follow-up? Yep. Go ahead.
What is the depth of your overhang?
What overhang?
The eaves. The roof eaves.
We're not calling that out. I believe they seem to be about 18 inches. Yeah,
Okay.
we did not call that out. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else before we go to comments? Okay. Who'd like to start? Anyone?
Sure, I will. I've grown really fond of this project now, Mr. Sanchez. I think it's vastly improved. I would encourage you in the same direction. The front porch is nothing short of a miracle and how much it changes. I would, in general, expand or add some chunkiness in a very vague way that would excite Mr. Six to criticize my indecisiveness. But in general, this style has a kind of, the wooden exposed members have a heft to them. And although you have changed these from 4x4s to 6x6, I would say that was the same principle could be applied to all the rest of the exposed trim pieces. I think some added character way up in the peak of the eave where a material change or a vent or some kind of grill system that could be added to further develop the craftsman bungalow imagery that you're after, and very successfully, I might add, toward. I think there may be a little bit of a problem with the new porch to new carport. Boy, those look jammed together. And for all the good you're doing, I was really happy to see and hear that the carport was going away. So I was a little chagrined when it came back, although in this form it could be acceptable, although you can see and I think well understand that gable and trellis intersection isn't that comfortable, and whatever you can do to resolve that. I think those are all my comments. Thank you, Chair.
May staff interject really quick too?
Sure.
To Board Member Whalen's recent comments, just for some clarification, that carport is an existing carport, and so technically it's not within the ABR's purview, and it is required actually by zoning ordinance for a 2-unit lot. As such, you have to have one covered and one uncovered. So in this situation, that is a required element for this design. So just wanted to share.
Okay. Mr. Noon.
I would agree with Board Member Whalen. I appreciate the applicant's response to our comments, and I find it ready for PDA.
Okay. Mr. Black?
I would agree with those comments.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just make sure that all the eave overhangs are the same and consistent throughout. Some of them look a little larger than 18 inches, so I would just make sure they're all the same. And then same thing, just kind of work on the detailing of the porch and the gable ends as you develop your plan. So otherwise, I think it was a great improvement from last time.
Yeah, much improved. My comments are kind of related to the siding. I think Mr. Whalen had some helpful suggestions because you do have, as you get higher in the volume, you do have a lot of just sort of area of siding, especially as you're coming up towards the peak of the roof there. I think that's, and then I think whether you want it to happen or not, there's going to be some more detail and trim pieces included with your siding anyway. You know, we're not seeing like a corner board for everything to die into. We're not seeing usually your meteor trim around the windows and things like that. So I think there's going to be another layer of detail that happens during construction. And I think the addition of the expansion of the porch is great. I would encourage you to kind of study that and have, maybe there's some moments where there's some inexpensive detailing that can be added to that just to kind of really give it a better feel for that type of construction. But I agree, I think it's ready for a project design approval. Would someone like to make that motion?
Sure. I'll make it again.
2 for 2.
2 for 2. I will move that the item receive project design approval, and we continue it to return with the following details in the siding, specifically up at the eave, and study the details of the front porch for added character and in general details that add to the bungalow character that are now headed in.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Anderson. Anything to add or?
Yeah. Would the maker of the motion be interested in adding to your detail comment of the trim around the doors and windows?
Certainly, that would be part of my vague comment number 3.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, let's read that back.
Do we need findings too on
We
that,
will
Mr.
eventually, but
Russell?
let's read that back first.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I have the siding specifically that you would study the eave and the details of the front porch for added character that would add to the bungalow character that's now added in.
Okay, let's be specific. Let's give them like number 1, number 2, number 3. So number 1, you talked about adding some sort of vent or detail at the gable end.
At the top of the gable, right.
Okay. So
Okay.
and number 2.
Number 2 was details at the porch that would develop the bungalow character.
Okay, so at the porch roof specifically, right?
I think all of the exposed members.
Okay. So,
Number 3 was the window trim
window,
to reflect a bungalow character.
I would include all trim.
all trim.
All the trim.
So, window, door, and all trim, or include details for window, door, and all trim pieces. Okay,
And then would we consider adding, making sure that the eave overhang is the same throughout? This-
And add
Just have to say.
another item that all eave overhangs are consistent depth.
okay. And now we need to make our compatibility findings. If we could.
And a reading of the compatibility findings. We do find that the project is consistent with the design guidelines that are applicable, that it is compatible with the architecture character of the city and that neighborhood as a bungalow style. It is appropriate in its size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. And it is sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources such as they are. It does not obstruct public views of the ocean and mountains and has an appropriate use of open space and landscaping.
Okay, any other discussion?
Under discussion, quick question. We haven't seen colors and finishes, have we?
No, but
Would we not typically at this level, PDA?
it's not
At least some
totally
suggestion.
necessary.
Okay.
Yeah,
And lighting?
lighting
So
when
we'll
they
see
come
that
back.
final.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's take our vote.
All right, Chair Moore,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
And we need to announce the appeal process, which is displayed on screen right now. Thank you very much. All right. And with that, we can adjourn our meeting for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.